Yeah, it's your boy Cgauch bringing another TWIF video to you, because, hey, that's what we do.
Talk to him. VenomousStare also with you, as well as Spencer, the 1-4 legend with the numbers. Spencer, your spreadsheets ain't looking so good, nor is Michael Thomas and Adams. How are you feeling, buddy?
Feeling like I'm one game out of division lead.
Oh, it sure is good to be in the division of death. So let's jump right into it, fellas. This is TWIF, and we are going to preview last week's matchups. And that was week 5, so this is the week 6 preview. We might as well go ahead and start with Ben, who took a crushing, just absolutely maddening win over Spencer. Spencer, you lost by a very narrow margin, 0.2, one of the narrowest margins you'll ever see. 85 versus 85, very scrappy game. Please tell me how you felt about this one.
I felt good.
Okay. Was that before the game, presumably?
I mean, like, obviously I felt bad after. I don't know. Like, it sucks. It sucks to lose. You know, I'd be tied for the division lead. It'd have been nice to know that Thomas wasn't playing before the Sunday game started. I found out, like, right after the 3 o'clock games. So I was limited in my pickup options.
Well, at least you didn't start him and get the goose egg. There's that.
That's true. And then it's obviously soul crushing that, like, the Bills could have gotten me just like one sack.
Well, because they were the Monday night game, and you needed just a bare minimum to close the game versus Ben, and the Bills just got obliterated by Tennessee. You got -4 and just narrowly lost.
Or even in a world where his game is like on a Sunday night, right? And then I could see, okay, I know that they are on the same team, but if Josh Allen and the Bills were like separate, I could have benched the Bills and then won, right? That kind of sucked too. But.
Right. Well, brutal loss for you because it knocks you down to 1-3. Big swing game because it knocks Spencer up, or 1-4 rather, and big swing game because it knocks Spencer up to 4-1. We can move on and talk about Aaron beating Clap4. Aaron putting up about 100. And Clap4 sort of failing to take advantage of the fact that everyone else in his division is sort of on fire. And Clap4 didn't have anyone but his quarterback and defense get over double digits. So this was sort of tough to watch. But Aaron did squeak out 100. CeeDee Lamb got over 10 in that ridiculous Cowboys game where Dak got hurt. Minshew was solid. Connor found the end zone. Dalvin Cook got banged up, but at least had the grace to find the end zone before. So, good win for Aaron because he really couldn't afford another loss. What do you think about Aaron's chances going forward, Cgauch?
Going forward, like in the division?
Yeah, well, just in the season now that he's sort of 2-3 and at a place where he can sort of compete, but he's not exactly leading.
I think like him being in the division that he's in with like how terrible that entire division's been playing. I honestly like have Spencer somehow winning the division. Just once he gets Thomas and Adams back, I think it's kind of going to be over for like that rest of that division. Like every team in that division's so bad.
Well, Spencer's in the middle division. Aaron's in the Big Oven division, so they're different.
I thought Aaron was in his.
No, Aaron's with No Fried, Cam, and Ben.
Oh, he's Minshew's magnificent mustache. Right. He changed his name.
Everyone has these changing IDs. It makes it very hard to follow. Some people like a Facebook status on a bi-weekly basis. So
I still think like in that division he's kind of on his way out. Like Cameron's squeaking in some wins somehow with not even setting lineups. Thank God he gave me a free dub last week because my team almost choked it. But I think that's Ben's division to win.
It has to be Ben's division to win. Cameron pretty much can just be considered dead at the moment, and No Fried and Aaron, although somewhat formidable, both have two wins and are well behind Ben. So Ben, this is a perfect position for him. This is a guy who has been disregarded by many as sort of an AFK goofball owner, and he's sort of proving it so far, and all he has to do is close out the lead because Cameron is just self-destructing because Dak has been solo carrying his team and got hurt this week and is not going to be there for the rest of the season. And I got Andy Dalton, so Cameron can't simply just go to that. It's going to be very brutal for Cameron, who probably has the worst winning percentage during the bye weeks by a mile in our league. and that's just going to be brutal. So it's really Ben's division to lose. So we can continue to review the matchups from the previous week. And since
Which one are we moving on to?
Well, since we're talking about Cam, we might as well address this atrocity that was you marching over him with a solid 87 points, mind you. But Cameron, Dak got hurt, which obviously he couldn't help. It happened mid-game, but Melvin Gordon not only was injured, but was on a bye week, and Cam started him, which was just simply repugnant because this wasn't exactly a surprise. And Spencer, I just really want to hear your thoughts on a guy who was one of the most strident against the buy-in being increased, but was the first to make multiple obvious bye week and out-related errors. What do you think about this subject?
Yeah, I mean, initially I thought like, oh, it doesn't matter, but kind of looking at it, if he plugs in Jonnu and Mike Williams, which are pretty obvious plays, like he gets the win, and that bumps Christian down in your division, and obviously he's tied for the division lead, which
Right.
yeah, that's not really the point. But it is irritating to see the buy-in apparently isn't high enough, because to me, if you're not setting your lineup when you're tied for the division lead, the buy-in, like obviously the buy-in isn't high enough for you to care, right?
Yeah, and it's bye week. This isn't a guy who was questionable 10 minutes before kickoff and got put in or taken out. I can cut just a little bit of slack for those moments. This was a guy on bye week, 7 days of notice. And Cameron, this isn't a season where he started 0-4 and was already out. He's in the division lead. I just don't know how you could say that the buy-in is too low and you could see something like this happen, a division winner starting a player on bye week. Fellas, the bye weeks are posted before week 1. Before the season start, everyone has schedules, so everyone knows when the bye weeks are. Cam knew when Melvin Gordon bye week was, and this is just a repugnant display from my view.
I also I could understand maybe like a COVID situation where like the bye weeks are like obviously getting switched around, but it's like whenever you open the app, it has like a big black box in the middle of your screen telling you if you have people like that are sitting out due to COVID. So it's like even if it was a COVID situation, like you still shouldn't be like allowing stuff like that to happen.
Right.
And it's like also like the argument is like that he could have started different people to maybe win. It's like I can make the same argument every week. Well, if I started like the perfect lineup every week, like my team would score more points. It's like you could say that for anybody's fantasy league.
Well, you have to at least start people that fucking play.
Yeah,
that have
exactly.
games that week, for Christ's sake. Like, he can play the dumbest player in the world, but if they're fucking have a chance of getting a snap, then I can forgive it. But for Christ's sake, the guy's been on bye for 5 weeks. He could have sickle cell and COVID and AIDS, and it wouldn't matter. He's still going to be on bye. So I just hate to see stuff like this. Let's move on. There's not much more to be said. Weston, despite the fact he started off slow and only had 1 win, absolutely popped off versus No Fried. No Fried put up a solid 115, a very respectable total, but Weston really benefiting off of Mike Davis. The Carolina Panthers still rely on the run despite the fact that McCaffrey is hurt. Derrick Henry found the end zone twice. Travis Kelce had a typical Travis Kelce week. And Darrell Henderson abused a weak Washington defense with the lead to lead Weston to a solid 131-point victory. And I don't think there's much to be said. Spencer, Christian, if you guys want to add anything about this game, go ahead and go for it.
Nope, nothing really. Like Weston's team just kind of all popped off. No Fried didn't. It's not really like a fault in No Fried either. Like on his like starts and sits and stuff like that. It's like he started the best possible lineup. Weston started his best possible lineup, and then Weston's team won.
True, and No Fried had Eckler out, which was a big turning point.
All I have to say is the Mike Davis gravy train's about to end.
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear that, considering he's in my division. Has a great record against me. All right,
I think it's like
that's mine. Mine and yours division.
Very true. All right, so let's move on. We got AB losing to Lily, who's now 3-2. Kyler Murray did pretty well, but throughout AB's team, as predicted, Joe Mixon less than 10, OBJ less than 10, and Cgauch is feeling good and laughing about that one despite the bell drop. And for AB here, what jumps out at me is Robinson really having a poor performance against Houston, who, despite having a new coach, really popped off. That sort of makes me think way less of Bill O'Brien as a coach. I know you're a Texan guy, Spencer. Obviously, you sort of trashed him last week, and that was appropriate, but were you surprised to see the Texans look so sharp this week, or was it sort of expected?
I mean, I've periodically trashed Bill O'Brien to you for like 2 years, and then the Texans' cheapness. So, not really.
But did you expect him to break out like this the very week they got rid of him?
They beat like a okay Jaguars team. Like, let's not call it breaking out now.
All right, well, fair enough.
They did seem to pass it more, which I think is good. I think Bill O'Brien really loved the run game, but I think that this team, as constructed, is probably better if they lean more on the pass.
Alrighty, fair enough. Lilly takes a solid win here, and this is a tough loss for AB, who at this point is 2-3 and really could have been taking advantage of a relatively weak division. And then you have me scoring above 108 again, and pretty much a lot of what I said came to pass. People who had other options hurt came through. The Cowboys did in fact run it a lot more, and overall this was a solid win by a relatively hefty margin. The crux of this game, I think, was Lamar Jackson really not having a great game, despite the fact that he led his team to a very solid victory. He only put up 13.5 fantasy points, so for Jackson, a guy who really based a lot of his scoring opportunities around Lamar, if Lamar doesn't have a really good game, it's hard for him to win a lot of the time. Y'all want to throw anything in before we move on to the previews?
No.
No, nothing really too much to cover here.
Alright, fair enough. So now that we are moving into the Week 6 preview, I say that we start with the father-son matchup, Clap 4 versus Cameron. And Spencer, I want you to lead the way on this one because Clap 4 is in a spot where he's tied 2-3 with AB, and he has Jackson and you right on his heels, the two owners in that division that a lot of people would consider to be sharps, heady, and he's right on the cusp of losing that advantage in terms of the one game. So I want you to sort of preview this matchup, and then Cgauch can give his thoughts as well.
Yeah, Cloud 4 is in real dire straits. It's a super top. He had first overall pick, super top heavy team. Losing McCaffrey, man, that really has him, reeling, so to speak. You kind of look at his team from top to bottom, and you're just like, where's the talent? He's got Godwin back this week in a game that has a reasonable total. The Packers game, so he could do okay. But I mean, other than that, and him and Watson, man, look at this team. It's pretty.
Here's Lockett on a bye.
Yeah,
it's pretty brutal. I guess
very bare.
The Ravens defense is a real bright spot there at the bottom, but I'm not super high on Cameron's team, starting to double Lions, but he might win this game, honestly. They're both pretty brutal though. This could literally be 60 to 62 or something.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Christian,
yeah,
what do you think?
Pretty much agree with everything Spencer said, but I do think once Christian McCaffrey comes back and Kevin's team will be a lot better because he's gonna have Deshaun, he'll have CMC as his RB1, then Ingram or Jerick McKinnon as his RB2 and 3. If he decides to flex either one, and his receiving core is solid since Godwin's back, and if he can stay healthy, because he also has Tyler Lockett. So, I don't think his team's as bad as you're thinking it is, but he also has Ravens defense. But I think Kev wins this game, just due to the double line running back starts, and I feel like Henry's going to get most of the bulk touchdowns and points of the Tennessee-Houston game. And DJ Moore's not having a very good season. Deebo Samuel just got back. I think the best player on fucking Cameron's team right now is AJ Brown.
To me,
and Harrison Butker.
Yeah, well, to me, what jumps out for me is Kevin, the commish, desperately needs a win, and he's facing a Cameron team that is going into the murderer's row for him historically of bye week. Stack just got hurt. He's starting 2 Lions running backs, for God's sake, within the last decade of fantasy, it's rarely been acceptable to even start one Lions running back. And as bare as the Commission's lineup looks, and as much as I think that he needs Watson to carry him in a difficult matchup against Tennessee, I think that this is sort of a messy game where Clapfor squeaks out a much-needed win in a low-scoring affair.
I'm just thinking, like, I don't know if y'all watched the Tennessee
Bills game. Yeah.
I think that Watson is a very comparable player stylistically to Josh Allen.
Yep.
Like, obviously he's more intelligent, but he's also not as athletic in terms of like size. I think that they have the blueprint for mobile quarterbacks, and I think that they could really embarrass Watson.
Yeah. Tennessee's like secondary is really good too.
Yeah. So he could put up a real stinker. And then what makes no sense to me, dude, he's so infuriating. It's like, okay, Higbee's his guy. He's going to stick with Higbee, whatever. If you don't want, like, you've got Jonnu Smith, who's the number 4 overall tight end while having a bye week. Like, probably the number 1 overall in terms of, like, per game production. Like, if you don't want Jonnu, man, trade him for a running back or something. Like,
yeah,
it's just crazy. Like, this bear.
I didn't even notice he had Jonnu until you said that.
Dude, if you're like, even if you're not don't care about looking at like the box scores, just look at like the game logs.
Yeah,
like,
even the points, just the sheer point total. Like.
It's just like every week he's getting like a tutty. You know, it's just crazy to me that he's benching Jonnu in this situation. And even like it's just, to me, it's like a no-brainer to start Jonnu, and like that probably is going to be the difference, is him not starting Jonnu.
Yeah, he should start Jonnu, because I think like Tennessee and like Houston, like I think Tennessee's going to like run the score up, so it's like he's going to get discount double points like every time Tannehill throws a touchdown to AJ Brown and Jonnu.
And one of Houston's weaknesses that's exploitable is their cornerback play has been pretty poor against tight ends. I don't know if this year it's that way, but I mean, they haven't really brought anyone on who would solve it, so I assume it's the same as in past years. Like, they were one of the worst defenses against tight ends in the league. Like, they just get gashed every time they play Kelsey or Waller or whatever top end tight end. So like, yeah, it's really silly, and it's just what I don't like necessarily need you to make like the 5-head pickups. You know, I just need like a basic, like, this guy I have on my team is substantially better than this guy, and maybe the best tight end, you know, production wise so far this year. I'm gonna put him in. Like, True. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Cameron's team, literally. It's like he opens the app and it's like, you know how it has like the plus whatever points, and it's like, optimize my lineup. I feel like he opens it once a week, clicks that button, and then just closes the app, never checks it again.
He doesn't even read the feed. It's
like
vicious.
It's like because Higbee's projected 0.6 more, but it's like if he was fucking smart, like Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith
obviously has the better matchup and the better history. Exactly.
Holy
right.
shit!
Cgauch with the Galaxy reads.
Yeah, that was such a good read. He totally did that. He totally.
That's all he ever does.
He doesn't even
because listen. Even a second argument to confirm that. Last week, go back and look at week 5 real quick for the video for me.
Yep,
look at our matchup. Hold on, let me go to. No. Hold on, let me go to the fucking box score so I can actually see his bench. Because he has a running back
Smith
on
got
IR.
16 and Williams got 22.
Hold on, you gotta go to.
He has because look, if he clicks optimize, right, it's like they're like Melvin Gordon's on bye. It's not gonna throw another running back in because Tevin Coleman's on IR and Kerryon Johnson's on bye. So it's like he either had to make a waiver wire pick himself, or like it's not going to change his running back spot. It's just going to optimize like his receivers and stuff.
So you think
it's not going to sub in a running back?
He didn't even scroll down an inch.
Yeah,
to
he
see
didn't even check it.
One.
He just clicked optimize.
He clicked optimize and was like, "Fuck it," and just moved on.
Yeah, because I bet Higbee was projected more last week too against Washington than Jonnu Smith against Buffalo's defense that was undefeated.
You're actually right. I'm looking right now.
Yeah,
that's 100%.
That's why we're having Fargo on TWIF. Shout out to the Gauch.
Hey, that's why I posted. I was like, "Hey, thanks for that $50 donation, Cameron. Appreciate it."
But I mean, like, okay, this is why you can't trust the projections because, like, I mean, I know
Yeah,
I'm like
you
I
never
dive
can.
into numbers a lot more than a lot of people, but like, dude, Tennessee had like one pass catcher, AJ Brown, on the roster. Like,
Yep.
it was like a no-brainer to start Jonnu in that situation, even if maybe you don't believe in him for season long.
And AJ Brown's been banged up all year, so you have to
Yeah, and
imagine that the
Corey Davis is out with a COVID thing.
Yeah, so
So it's like
Jonnu has to
he's
get the looks.
100%. We just like he's 100% checking the app once a week, clicking optimize, closing it.
Well,
That's literally all he's doing.
Well, not even once a week necessarily.
Yeah. Because last week it wouldn't have changed any of his running backs because the other two one was on IR and the other one was on bye.
Yeah.
So it's just going to optimize and change the receivers and tight ends.
I just like I try to wrap my head around like
I feel
so little.
gross. Like Christian is so right, and I'm so like sold on this idea that I just want to like move on. I feel dirty.
Yeah, let's keep going. But like
Holy
just picturing
shit.
him pressing the easy button 16 times a season
Yeah.
is just like, oh.
He's like, I don't want to waste $50 more.
It's the
Why would I make it go up to 100, dude? What about COVID?
The virus. What are
I
we
can't
gonna
check
do
my
about
lineup
the
more than like
virus?
30 seconds a month, dude. Like, what?
You have to watch an ad when you press that button.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like
no.
absurd.
It's like a 30-second ad he has to watch.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, come on.
Forget this. Closes it and watches a YouTube ad. All right, we're gonna look at Cgauch versus Jackson here. Really important matchup for Jackson. He really needs a W desperately. Aaron Rodgers is facing off against Tampa Bay. That'll be a really exciting matchup to see him play Brady. And Lamar Jackson's facing off against Philly. They have a great run defense, so it'll be on Jackson to really air it out. And overall, Christian, what are you really hoping for in terms of win conditions when this matchup occurs?
I think like the way I like always look at my matchups as is like I'm looking at Rodgers like canceling out Lamar. My RBs are going to be better than his, and his receiving core is going to be better than mine. So I just need I need my running backs to cover what his running backs are going to give me, and like maybe 10 to 15 more points than there, because his receivers are going to cover mine. Because Amari Cooper's getting Andy Dalton, which we don't know how that'll go. Like he only got targeted once last week, regardless, with Dak and Dalton. DJ Shark may not play; he's still questionable.
Yep.
And then I had to get I had my main running back and tight end are on a bye, so like I think Alexander Madison has a good matchup like at running back, and then I just got Ito Smith because like I know that, like the Falcons in Minnesota, I'm hoping it's a high scoring game. That's all I'm like really hoping for. But like Colts, I think have a better matchup against Cincinnati than the Titans do against Houston, and like my kicker is really good, so he's going to go off. I just need Drake to get what he's kind of projected or close to.
Yeah.
But I think like this is another like week. Like I have 2 buys on like my 2 best players. He has like a lot of buys this week as well. So it's just going to be like who performs that we've like had to sub in.
Well, Chris Carson has been a cornerstone of Jackson's team all season, and he's on bye. And when I look at Kenyon Drake this week for you, this is a Cowboys offense who has just been laughed out of the game by running backs. Even though you had Nick Chubb hurt and Kareem Hunt dealing with an injury, the Cowboys still couldn't stop anything. That was a couple weeks ago, and then the week before against the Giants, even with Barkley out, the defense didn't look good. So you have to think Drake is going to do better even than projected. I think he's going to get 13 plus.
Yeah, hopefully. This is like a do or die week for Drake as well, because he hasn't been playing this season, and then like last week for Chase Edmonds to go in and like outperform the starting running back kind of has me worried.
Yeah, especially as much as they air it out.
Yeah. But it's like also like he's missing his Chris Carson, like I'm missing Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs, who have like been a huge part of my team.
I think Cooper will find the end zone this week, though, personally.
I'm hoping so.
Well, Spencer, what do you think about this matchup? Who do you favor?
I feel pretty worried if I was Christian, honestly. I'm kind of looking at it, and I kind of agree with him that Aaron Rodgers is in a pretty similar spot to Lamar. Obviously, Lamar has more rushing upside, which is going to help him keep up with Rodgers, who probably will pass for more yards. Gore with no Bell is getting. They said they're gonna lean more on Gore than the other guy, so I think that he could get 80 or 90% of the looks. It is the Jets, but it's also Miami. So like this could be a game where they stick with running it, and in the past they've shown no problem giving Gore 18, 20 carries.
Yeah, it's such a huge upside for Gore, for Bell to leave. The fact that
Yeah.
Bell left makes Gore's value just astronomically higher.
He picked up Gore after that Bell thing, so that was a real sharp waiver wire move by Jackson.
As usual.
You have Gibson, who I think is in a really nice spot against
Soft
the Giants as a dual threat, like running and passing back. So like he could. I mean, these guys are not in as good spots as Madison and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think I kind of view it as these guys have a higher. I feel better about them than I would having Cooper with Dalton, and who knows if he's going to be targeted as much as he was under Dak, and then Chark, who is hurt potentially. I feel better about Ridley and Brown, and obviously I would say than those two. So
agreed.
Yeah.
I kind of lean slightly Jackson. Like it's very close. It's basically even, maybe like a point if I were actually put projections down. And then here's kind of where I find that Jackson makes up a little ground. I think that this Smith guy is kind of bad. He hasn't really been on the field a lot. He doesn't have a lot of routes run. He had a good game against Seattle, but I don't really know. He could literally get 0. And I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, this is a tied in bye week fill-in as Darren Waller's on bye for the Cgauch, so obviously a bit of a weak point. And when I view this matchup, I sort of view it in terms of Jackson has the receiver advantage, Cgauch has the running back advantage, and I look as the quarterback to be the turning point of the game. Will Lamar have a really big game versus Philly? The run defense is just exceptional, so I don't think he'll go crazy, but I do think he will outperform Rodgers slightly, and I actually edge Tampa Bay in that Green Bay matchup if you're just looking at scoreline. And as far as projection goes, I think this is an incredibly important matchup where Christian's trying to keep pace with me in the division lead. He's looked very good this year, as I've been saying all year. And Jackson, despite his talent, is at a lowly 1 win along with Spencer. And if you look at that division, even though the other two people only have 2 wins, I honestly think that you can really only think that either Spencer or Jackson is going to be a threat come the end of the year. I don't really see a world where both of them are threats as far as wild card plus division, because even if they both reel off a massive streak, I think it could be tough, because as far as I'm concerned, the wild card is coming out of the division where Cgauch and I are, the famous Cursed Lands division. That division is just stacked with Lily, Cgauch, and me looking very strong. So I just edge Cgauch here by a nose, and I think this is a very important matchup.
I think also our matchup relies for both of our teams, it's going to rely a lot on the Falcons and Minnesota game, if that's a high scoring game or not, because that's going to make or break my team, because I have 2 Minnesota players and then the Falcons kicker, and then he has the Calvin Ridley Falcons receiver.
True. And Julio,
but I don't agree either with giving Tampa Bay the edge against Green Bay. I think Green Bay is probably the number 1 or number 2 team in the NFL right now.
That's fair. Green Bay is certainly strong, although I think that Brady will lead his team to an upset this week. It is certainly a dark horse pick.
I need them to just throw for 400 yards each.
Tampa Bay or something. Tampa Bay is kind of an air funnel too, so their run defense is so stout that it forces teams to pass to beat them. So that's kind of good for Rodgers.
It's a great point, Spence.
If I'm being honest, I'd have to give the slight edge to Jackson. I think he made some good pickups, and even though he doesn't have Carson, I think the tight end differential is gonna come into play. And I like Gesicki to go for 10, and this Irv Smith guy could get literally 0, and that's kind of gives me some hesitation picking Christian, basically.
Cgauch, did you pick up Alexander Madison this week?
I think I've had him for 2 weeks now,
okay.
Or maybe longer.
All right, I wasn't sure. All right, we can move on. That is a very important matchup and an interesting one. And as far as another interesting sort of make or break matchup, we can move on to One Johnny Football Please and Team Rocket. AB, of course, coming off of his monumental trade, and Weston coming off of his best week of the year by far.
Look at Weston's projection. Isn't that nuts?
It really is. 111, that is very high. Fitzpatrick has really lit it up fantasy-wise this season, even though he's just very, very hit or miss. Just sort of almost hilariously hit or miss in terms of the fact that he can have horrific multi-interception games or phenomenal games like he did for me in the Super Bowl. And I'm looking at this Jets defense here and saying it's going to be great. And you look over at the mirror and say Kyler Murray against Dallas. Both of these quarterbacks are got to pop off for 22 plus. I'm feeling great about these quarterbacks in this matchup.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that I think both of them are in good spots. I like Murray's spot a little better. I think Dallas's defense is pretty vulnerable to rushing quarterbacks, and Murray is like rushed for 100 yards some of these games, I think, or like near 91 yards against San Fran. So I think it could be he gets a rushing score, 100 yards, 200 yards passing, a passing touchdown too. I mean, he could go for 30 or 40, and I think that's what might help AB beat Weston potentially if he beats him.
I would take the over on Kyler Murray having 30.
Yeah,
30?
sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, these quarterbacks are going to destroy, and the Cowboys' defense is so repugnant and hapless that Murray is going to light them up, whether it be with his legs or with his arm. He's going to have a huge day.
And Dalton could have some miscues and set him up for some easy scores, too.
That's a great point, too. Dalton's still adjusting to that offense.
Damn. If, like, Derrick Henry honestly wasn't having, like, a slow start to the season, like, Weston's team's fucking stacked.
Yeah,
Mike Davis is going to fall off soon, you have to remember.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, like, if Henry...
Davis
like, if
pickup saved his season.
Yeah, if Henry was, like, playing, like, an RB1, which, like, has he, like... what he has been like the past couple of weeks, like since the start of the season, like his team would be crazy stacked.
True. Well,
because he has like Julio, Allen Robinson, Kelsey, and then he got Darrell Henderson off the waiver wires too. I fucking wanted that guy, but
he got Henderson on a trade from me, not off the waivers. Remember, he traded.
Oh yeah, Boyd. I forgot you traded him that.
Yeah,
I voted against that.
You voted against it. What is it? The Senate? You're freaking stealing from AB, and you're gonna vote like you're Mitch McConnell. Give me a break.
Hey, you could have voted against it. Oh, did you vote against it?
I honestly don't remember. I sort of knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's not my position to say that it's fair or unfair. Like it wasn't collusion, so I don't really vote against anything.
I voted against yours for sure. Me and Spencer were colluding to get it voted.
Yeah, I'm sure you two were rallying votes like McCain to try to kill that deal.
I mean, I didn't care that much. I thought Weston ripped you off.
Wow, that's interesting, actually. So,
yeah, I thought he got the better end. I can't even remember who you got.
It's Tyler Boyd of the Bengals.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure he ripped you off.
So this week, Weston faces off against Austin, and Henderson is mirroring against OBJ in a funny way because those are both guys who were traded for. And again, Pittsburgh, with Raplesberger back, looks a lot better than they did in the past. And I actually favor them to win and OBJ to get under 10 again this week. So what do you think about that, Spencer? OBJ and Mixon, you were very low on them, as I was. Do you think they're going to pop off this week? Or?
I mean, I'll take, if someone wants to bet me, I'll take the under 10 points rest of the season on OBJ every week. So,
jeez,
every week? Not a big OBJ guy, even though he's wide receiver number 1, and Landry doesn't get a ton of looks, so...
They just don't pass it. They're not a passing team.
Okay, Mixon's projected 12. Can I get an over-under Mixon 12 this week against Indy's D?
Under.
I'm taking the under.
That's just absurd. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Indy has a really good pass defense.
He's had 1 week over 10, and that was the week I traded him after he had 36. Yep. So it's like
the God week you brought him out incessantly.
And he's going against Indianapolis defense.
Definitely under.
His workload is so insane, but he just does nothing with it because their O-line is just cheddar. It's awful.
True. And Mixon is actually pretty good, so their offense is actually better when they just
He's very talented. He's like very, very talented. It's like kind of depressing on like how shit that O-line is. Like I was watching one of the games, and I think he got hit at the line like literally like 5 or 6 run plays in a row. I was like, holy shit.
Speaking of which, in a somewhat related topic, something that I've kind of been thinking about, and I think that we see it really clearly demonstrated here. Like, think about, I think no one can deny that McCaffrey is insanely talented, right?
Yeah.
But, like, we look at a guy like Mike Davis. This is a guy who was like the third string back on the Chicago Bears.
Mhm.
Like, this kind of makes me think, and I've been preaching this for like several years now, 2 or 3.
Running backs
I've
are
talked a while
overrated.
about it.
Don't pay them.
Completely overrated. Product of a system and or offensive line.
Their
Right?
own line. Yeah. That's how Jonathan Taylor's going to be, but I think Jonathan Taylor's also a good back. But I think like isn't the Colts O-line injured right now? But they're one of the best offensive lines in the league.
Yeah,
Like I'm surprised he hasn't been popping off as much as he.
It's
Yeah,
somewhat humorous because for years they couldn't get Luck a line, and then he had to retire
Yeah.
because he was getting his brains beat in so bad, and now they have a good line.
Which is so sad because Phillip Rivers has been playing horrible. Like I thought that team was going to be crazy good.
They spent draft after draft like getting linemen to protect Luck.
Yeah.
And
Then he retires like the year they're supposed to have a
the
good
year
ass
they
O-line.
finally get it together, he's like so banged up from getting beat in for years that he like
Retired
O-line.
before that season started. Yeah. And then that O-line was crazy good.
Yeah.
Like Quentin Nelson, he's a beast.
So yeah, let's get back to this matchup though. I think it's pretty.
Obvious.
I think from top to bottom, obviously there's some positional stuff that AB's better at, but I think you got to edge West in this matchup, surely.
Yeah. I think like as much as I think Kyler Murray will like. I want to take the over on 30 points, but it's like very well like a 20, like he's averaging like what 26, 27 points a game. Like he could get that, and also like Fitzmagic could match that against the Jets.
True.
Like he could match a plus 30 game for Murray against the Jets.
He just doesn't have the rushing upside that Murray has.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Kind of hitting his ceiling.
Obviously, like just like based off the projections, like Weston has the edge, but like I think Weston's gonna like win this game easily. Like his receiving core is crazy good. Like he has Kelsey. I think Darrell Henderson like has like he puts up his projection. Mike Davis will have a good game. Derrick Henry's gonna have a good game against Houston. Like I don't see like any really like terrible matchups on Weston's side.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Henderson. When the trade went down, I thought Wiley got ripped, but kind of looking at it, I still think he got ripped, but like it's more of a timeshare than I thought it would be. I thought Henderson. That's why I kind of traded away Brown. Is I thought it would be a 60-40 timeshare one way or the other, and it kind of has been. And San Fran's no joke, so he might not get there. But I mean,
well, they're banged up as well.
I don't think
Like,
Beckham's going to get there either, so that doesn't really matter. And I look at the top guys, and the only position I see AB really having a big distinct advantage at is quarterback.
Yeah.
To me, Allen Robinson and Julio Jones together are more talented than Hilton and Hill in this
for sure.
situation.
Yeah, Hill's not having a good season, but that's also like in tandem with Rivers having a bad season.
You mean
I also
Hilton?
like, yeah, that's what I said.
Hilton's look terrible. You're right. Like,
Yeah.
even if he does get his targets, he hasn't caught a touchdown all year. He looks disjointed.
He hasn't been getting targets. That's like the weird thing. Like last week is the first week he got like 10 targets this year. I think some of it's a chemistry thing with Rivers, and Rivers hasn't been very good. And Indy hasn't really had to play from behind at all. Like they've kind of played all their games from ahead and just ran the clock out and played
because
really
their defense.
passively. So that's
Their
not
defense
always
is so
good for
good.
fantasy weapons, you know.
Yeah. I think Darrell Henderson's going to have a good week because like San Francisco got fucking ran through last week by the Dolphins.
That's a good point,
Yeah.
Christian.
It could be. We don't know about the workload too.
I mean, we kind of do. Like he's getting like he rushed for 15 times last week, and like he's put up 18 points 3 weeks out of the 5 of this season.
But
I think he's getting majority.
The last week he rushed for 8 times.
This past week, week 5.
No, like the week before week 5.
Oh yeah, the week before.
I'm just saying like. It's a timeshare, and it's like if you could imagine like a tilt-a-whirl, like woo, woo, woo,
Woo! That sounds amazing, Spencer.
Yeah. It's like it's Brown this week, ding ding ding. And I think
it's whoever like has the hot hand.
Yeah, I think like it could be either one. That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's and when I think about it, that's what I'm kind of playing out in my head is the tilt-a-whirl. That's what I think of all timeshare as.
Spencer, with your verbal descriptions of carnival events, who would ever need to ride the rides themselves?
Yeah, I know that was awful.
I loved it. I love the sound effect. Dude, like, people say no music in TWIF. Who needs music? And that Spencer is Fred from Howard Stern pumping in the sound effects. When I look at this game, what jumps out to me is Weston for weeks has been a guy just sort of towing the line, doesn't want to make a big trade, really just waiting out and riding the storm. Fitzpatrick's in a weak matchup. Mike Davis is in one of his last weeks where McCaffrey is going to be hurt. Henry's coming off a stellar week. Julio Jones finally doesn't have an injury designation. Robinson looks consistent. Kelsey's facing a defense that got slashed last week. Henderson is doing pretty well, and even though he's kind of timeshare, San Fran is still sort of reeling and banged up. And the Washington Redskins, who I refuse to call the football team because that's insidiously stupid, are facing the Giants, who Daniel Jones always fumbles and throws interceptions. If you're going to edge Weston, it's got to be this week, even though I think that Tyreek Hill, rather, I think that he'll actually go for 12 plus this week. I think that AB will actually suffer a loss here. I think
It's like
Weston is set to have a huge week.
It's like AB's team is like high upside, like almost all across the board.
It's like your team 5 years ago.
Yeah.
OBJ, TY.
What do you think about him benching Juju for Odell?
I was looking at that and thinking that he might want to slide
bench
him
TY.
in.
I would bench TY.
Well, fucking Juju's playing Cleveland. Their pass defense isn't great.
Yeah. I know. I'm saying I would bench T.Y. Hilton for Juju.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even though Cincy isn't great either.
I think that isn't a bad idea, but I'm really low on Odell.
Yeah, well, it's also like I'm thinking of it.
And I think Pittsburgh is a bad matchup. Like I think that their defense is pretty good.
Agreed.
Well, I'm thinking of like
I think you got to play Juju. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
Whether you like, it's obviously between Hilton and Beckham, in my opinion. But you got to like Juju. He's so talented, and he's like, I think he laid a bomb he didn't do well last week, but that's because that random scrub, not scrub, but like he caught like 4 touchdowns.
The Clayton guy, right?
Yeah. Which is so like gimmicky,
random,
like,
just shitty fan. That's like a fantasy nightmare. Is when you see the random guy no one has get all the touchdowns. That makes you feel so bad as a fantasy owner. Like Clayton again, a 4th time. I remember watching that, just thinking like, oh my god, the guy has Juju's getting screwed, and that was
and he dropped the 5th touchdowns that game. Like he could have had 5 touchdowns.
That's hilarious.
My reason on starting Juju over Ty is just like because Beckham's upside is like as high as you can possibly get, and like the only way he pulls off a win this week against Weston's team is if like somebody blows up, and I can't picture T.Y. Hilton blowing up this week with like how Phillip Rivers has been playing and like how good the Colts defense is. They're just literally like love grinding the ball, like running the ball to Jonathan Taylor and like all those running back like they have.
Yeah, I absolutely hate the Colts as an offensive option, and think that they're definitely a significant downgrade from the Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton days. Way more inconsistent, like you said, Christian, a grinding team, sort of a weird defensive-y team that you can't really count on. And if I'm fucking AB and I traded,
kind of like the old Jaguars.
That's an excellent analogy, Spencer. And if I'm AB and I traded for OBJ and I believe in the blonde hair and the kicking of kicking nets and all the hard-assness and the New York swag and the fucking $70,000 studs in the ear, I'm letting it ride with this guy, and I'm benching Hilton. Because I'd rather go with Juju than Hilton, but if you're going to trade for OBJ, if you're going to give up that much for him, I'm fucking starting him. Like, if you're going to trade for him, you got to think he's high enough upside to plug him in every week, frankly. But I do think you should put in Juju. So I think we've sufficiently covered that matchup, and we should move on.
Yep.
Matt Stafford and friends versus Rampy. Pretty big matchup for both of these players. And Russell Wilson, who is the best quarterback in the league fantasy-wise, is actually on bye. And Aaron's namesake is playing Detroit. So presumably Aaron is going to win this because Matt Stafford is going to be plugged in, presumably for her namesake. And it's going to be a bit of a mirror. Kind of a wash for me. I think they'll both get around 18, but this is an interesting matchup because Lily is just a tick below Christian and I at 3-2. Christian and I are 4-1. Aaron's at 2-3 in a division that is certainly still up for grabs. I think if you look at the first division, the Division of Death, or excuse me, if you look at the first division, the Cursed Lands division, with Christian and me and Lily, that's a division that looks very top-heavy. You sort of expect a wild card to come out from that. And the other two divisions, even if you struggled at the beginning, you're feeling like you can win those division titles. So it's a big game for both of these players, and even if they don't end up winning the division, this game could really have some impact on the wild card. And with Aaron Jones and James Conner both healthy, Aaron looks solid, although Tampa Bay has a solid run defense. CeeDee Lamb, I think, will have a solid day against Arizona. Spencer, what do you think about this matchup? Because even though Lily still has a couple people bide, actually Cameron, I think, is less reliable than Lily, and we can trust Lily to put in Stafford here in the Pats defense, so we can just shadow box with that.
I don't think she's ever dropped the balls and not replaced people, but I mean, there's a first time for everything. Potentially, so that is definitely something to monitor. What I find interesting, and this is hilarious, by the way. So look at her bench and look at who she's got sitting on the bench at running back there.
Old Peterson.
Another Lions running back. So between Lily and Cameron, they're starting 3 Lions running backs. I don't know. I just find that hysterical that they're just none of those guys should be started. Not one of them.
Historically, in the last 10 years,
starting all 3.
The Lions haven't had a running back worth starting in the last decade, much less having all 3 rostered. So I totally see what you mean.
It's just comical.
I love it.
But yeah, look at, in a more serious note, kind of looking at the top of the teams, obviously Connor and Jones, I think, are both in really, really good spots. In terms of they'll get workload. Jones is in kind of a rough matchup. This is a real letdown spot. If I was Aaron, I wouldn't feel great about Jones going at Tampa against that front. That could very easily, especially with Adams coming back. Aaron's been really high on Jones. Not he's a talented guy, but
to me he's hit or miss, boom or bust with a relatively high floor.
Well, you look week 1, and he got 13, right? And he only got 10 receiving yards. Since Adams has gotten hurt, he's gotten a huge uptick in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. I think once Adams back, he goes back to just being the ground guy, and I think that they might even round I don't know what the percentage breakdowns are, but I think he's a guy who's going to see a big down. I think Aaron should have maybe tried to trade him high while he was getting the load without Adams, right?
It's a good point. Especially because he has Singletary. Well, he has Singletary as an RB2 potentially.
He could have gotten he was top 3 or top 4, whatever, and then I think he's going to end the season maybe top 8, top 12. So I just think it's good to strike while the iron is hot with those kind of things. That we're getting off topic.
Well, that's what Christian did. If you look at Christian's trade, Christian took 2 guys coming off of those 2 weeks that Christian traded OBJ and Mixon off of. Those are going to be the season high weeks for those guys, almost 100%. And for Christian to trade them at that point was an intelligent move. So those are when you want to sell guys. Whenever a guy shits the bed for you and loses a game for you and you try to rage trade him, that's when their value's the lowest. You don't want to trade guys in that regard. So, Spencer, I just want to hear sort of a prediction for you and, assume that Lily will actually put in guys not on bye.
It's really, really tough, but I think it comes down to I don't buy, the Schultz guy, it's he's not really seeing the volume. He's not really getting who knows how it'll be with Dalton, but
too many good receivers, I think.
Yeah, and I think Dalton is a downgrade from Dak, but maybe and Dalton's never really been a huge tight end guy. I think he had Eifert for a while. But,
him and AJ Green notoriously were best friend target types.
I wouldn't feel great about Schultz. I think this Claypool guy, I think he'll be good, but I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction to him having 5 touchdowns. The pickup was fine, but I'm always hesitant to start these guys the week after they pop off.
Yeah, the week after they pop off, because they're going to be covered like that.
They're going to
the NFL teams aren't it's not a mystery that dude had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
the team they're playing this week's going to be this dude had 4 touchdowns. What was he doing? We need to stop that.
Yeah,
I think that like Singletary is probably in a better spot. Looking at his bench against
Yeah,
Kansas City,
he should definitely flex Singletary over Claypool.
I agree.
but I mean maybe he thinks he needs the upside. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
and then for like Lily, like I like her team. I'm not a huge fan of this Jefferson guy. I think he has talent, but I think it's too early. I think she'd be better off starting a guy like Crowder, who we know is going to get volume, has had over 100 receiving yards every game he's been healthy and played, and a touchdown, 2 of them.
With a bad offense.
Or Kenny Galladay. Like,
Yeah.
she should start Matthew Stafford and Kenny Galladay.
I know that Spencer brought
over
this up
like
before,
Robbie
but
Anderson or
what
something.
she really should do is trade one of these talented receivers for a running
I mean,
back.
she's going to either have to start Hines or Peterson. Like,
Hines is terrible.
I'm sitting here with like Freeman and David Johnson, or Freeman and Miles Sanders on my bench this week. Like, well, it'd be great if I had a viable wide receiver too to start with my like. But no, like people, like it's super frustrating. It's like a no-brainer trade that should basically write itself, but it just doesn't because these people don't like check trades.
I sent Cameron a trade like weeks ago and nothing happened of it. Like he just didn't even. I'm sure he didn't even check. Just click this little optimize button and got right off.
I've had Miles Sanders for like Galladay and Miles Sanders for like Crowder for like 3 weeks now in Lily's inbox. Like, to me that's like my 3rd round pick. Who's like
I wouldn't even trade him for those. Like,
yeah, it's like. I just wanted a wide receiver because I was so decimated and I felt like I had plenty of running back talent. But it's like she doesn't even check.
She's like if I saw that trade, I would literally cover your ears. I would nut everywhere and accept that trade.
Yeah. I think I might have rotated. Like I just know I've had a running back trade like with her multiple times for different. I wasn't sure if it was like the guy thing, like she didn't like who the guys were for, but like it just doesn't make any sense to have 6 starting quality wide receivers and then be starting Hines. You know, like it just makes no sense.
And
she needs to plug in Stafford, like obviously like her bye week, blah blah blah, and then put in. I would just get like attempt to get discount double points with Galladay and Stafford. Like I would put Robbie Anderson for Galladay.
I would put in Crowder, I think.
I like Crowder as well, but we're sort of splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to give Aaron the edge, even though I think Schultz and Claypool are going to shit the bed. Never do you see a flash-in-the-pan third receiver like Claypool who randomly pops off and gets all the touchdowns, come back the next week and replicate that, or even get half as good.
He needs to flex Singletary for sure, but I don't give the edge to Aaron. Like I think he'll win by like 10 or 15. So
I think Lily wins this. Honestly, I think Aaron's team has a lot of question marks in terms of production, and she's got the Patriots against Denver. Like the Patriots could just demolish them, and this is without Melvin Gordon. They're like one bright spot. Like they could easily score 20. Obviously, she's got to plug in the right people, but I think even if she starts Jefferson. She probably still wins. Like
I think Jefferson's a good receiver. Like, I don't agree that he's bad.
I didn't say he's bad. I just
like a bad start
option.
Yeah,
I like Crowder's had over 100 receiving yards every game this year.
Crowder's been great, and Galladay's the top option of Detroit.
Crowder.
It's sort of one of these things where
I think
it's less of an issue of like which receiver do you start, more of an issue of like wow, there's like 4 or 5 like tier 1 high tier.
She shouldn't be having a problem with who to start because she should have like
a trade.
She should have traded at least 1, maybe 2 of them because you can only start 3 wide receivers no matter how good they are. Even if you have Hill, Julio, Adams, and Thomas on the same team, you only have 3 slots, right?
True, and she's starting a guy Gurley at a running back 1 whose ceiling is like 15, and Hines who is garbage. So let's not beat a dead horse. Let's move on. I
edge Lily, and then I guess y'all both edge.
Let me just say that I think Claypool will get under 8 points this week. He's projected 7.5.
I think Aaron should just put in Singletary over Claypool, and I think he'll win. His running backs are good.
All right, so we should do we haven't done Spencer and No Fried, have we? I'm almost certain we haven't. Okay,
I mean, Spencer won.
Well, Spencer is facing off against a pretty depleted team here, and I think he's just going to sort of trounce No Fried as he's having his guys come off of the
Yeah.
injured list. Receiver-wise, Adams is back. Gallup looks good, facing a weak defense. Ertz is going to get points. Like, I don't think we have to spend too much time on this. Do you want to say anything about this, Spencer?
Hopefully, I can win.
I think like looking at No Fried's options, like just at running back alone, like Eckler's out, he's on a bye and he's on IR anyway. It's like Fournette's not going to play this week, I don't think. And
Yeah.
even if he did, like that's
It'd be next to nothing.
yeah. And then his only option at running back to like fill in that empty slot is J.K. Dobbins, which is like dog shit. Like Lamar Jackson and Ingram are going to take every rushing yard on that offense.
Yeah, his win condition is like Buffalo's defense is still reeling and Mahomes lights it up. Like Hilaire never punches it on the ground, and Gaskins lights up the JETS jokes for like 18 plus, and like maybe Cooper Kupp finds a touchdown too. But like other than that, like Spencer should win here. Solidly.
This is a terrible team. Like holy shit, how did he draft?
Well,
this team?
I wait all the way until Saturday at 3 a.m. to fucking do the video, and he has 2 empty slots. So like.
No, I'm saying like his team overall.
No,
his roster is terrible.
I know what you mean, but like it's like a joke to look at.
He has
the matchup.
Metcalf and Eckler, so that's like where a lot of his team strength.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know.
If you plug those guys in, like it looks a lot more formidable.
Yeah,
with,
Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen. Yeah, that's something.
Definitely.
But I agree
yes, congrats on your dub, Spencer.
Spencer should defile a fucking corpse on this week.
Yeah.
So
please don't jinx me, guys.
Hey, I think after that 0.2 loss, and
karma's on your side, Spencer.
A free dub this week. Like you should have been leading the division.
Free,
but it's whatever.
I was gonna win last week against Ben, and I got fucking railed.
Well,
it happens.
That's true. It does happen. And speaking of Benny Boy, he's facing off against the other 4-1 division leader, and that's me.
Free dub, dude.
This is an exceptionally exciting matchup, and since Cgauch said free dub, I want you to intro this preview, man. I want to hear everything. Do not hold anything back. Please be brutally honest about the teams.
I think your team's like somewhat talented, but you're kind of walking into a bunch of free wins this season.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm just joking. I think Allen outscores Dalton, but I think Dalton like won't be like as big as a down like side as like having to go from Dak to Dalton like against Arizona. Like I think he'll have a good game.
Well, Breeze is
Elliott's
on bye,
obviously
which is
gonna.
why I'm starting him, of course.
Yeah, obviously. And then Elliott's gonna like have a solid game. Like I think Allen will outscore Dalton, but like not by like a crazy amount. Elliott's gonna obviously outscore David Johnson. I think Philip Lindsay's gonna have a good week just because Melvin Gordon got a DUI, so he's gonna get all that workload.
Rip.
I think Ben's receivers are actually better than yours. But I think like you have the flex spot with Kareem Hunt. Like he's going to get all that workload on like a run-heavy offense against Pittsburgh, which I think is going to be like a grinding game. Like Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. Both teams are 4-0 or 4. I think one's 4-1. Obviously, you have like Kittle. You beat him there, and then Bell. I think will pan out like he'll be like a flex option. Like after a couple weeks with the Chiefs offense, like I think he came in. Clyde Edwards-Helaire obviously going to split time.
Well,
but I would give the edge to you for right now.
Okay, well, before we ask Spencer what he thinks, I just want to hear your quick thoughts on how much Bell's trade affects the value of Edwards-Helaire since you traded for Edwards-Helaire.
I don't think it affects it like as much as it has been. Like I think like the work, like he's just going to take over all of Darren Williams' reps. And I think like Bell will be in for like those third and long situations, but I think like first and second down, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be in, unless Bell's obviously like having like going really well. But I think like the workload, like it's just going to be like 60-40 or maybe even like a 50-50 split. Like I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still their first option with how much they invested into him in the draft and everything. Like Bell's just like a piece that they scooped up off the waivers, like because he got released for cheap, and he's like we know he's like what he is already.
Well, and they had been having success with Edwards-Helaire to begin with. It's not like they had been struggling at running back, and then Bell got released, and then they picked him up. So I agree with you. I think Bell will help their offense, but it's not like he's going to come in and take all the carries. So, Spence, I want to hear your thoughts on this matchup before I give mine, since it's my own matchup. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think you've got to be favored. You look pretty strong, at every position, and you still have another week of Jones because, Fournette's going to be limited this week. So I think you have another week of Jones getting the most of the touches, and he's done well in that role in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I think Kittle bounces back after a poor game against Miami, which he had really inconsistent quarterback play. I actually think if Garoppolo, I don't know if Garoppolo's starting, but I think you almost want him to not start because I think the backups tend to target
The
Kittle
tight ends
more.
Garoppolo.
I think with
Jimmy G will start. By the way, he started last week and was awful.
I think with Kittle's quarterback situation, Jimmy G, they could possibly bench Jimmy G the rest of the season, just kind of protect him, just because for the fact that everybody's getting injured, didn't he already get hurt and he's back from injury this season? Yeah.
Last week he was. I think that would be off of injury.
Yeah, I think that would be smart for them to just bench him. They paid all this money, just keep him protected for next season. Your season's kind of already a wash, and then you could honestly trade Kittle for a lesser tight end. Jonnu Smith and somebody else from Lily's team, or whose team was that?
Well, yeah, it was Lily's, but good luck trading with her. The thing about Kittle is backup or starter, he's going to retain value. It's not like a Terrell Owens where you have to have the starter in for him to get all of his targets. Kittle's good with the backup, he's good with the starter. If he's healthy, he's pretty much going to be top tier. Maybe
I
not
was just
as
thinking
good as Kelsey, but
I was just thinking you could work him into a trade and get you could get a solid tight end that's just below what he'll output, and then also a wide receiver. But it's your team's kind of stacked everywhere right now. Your team's solid, set for the next 6, however long Chubb's out for, because Kareem Hunt's not gonna get all the runs back there. Elliott's obviously
6 to 8 weeks.
Elliott's obviously the only the RB1 at Dallas. Breeze will be back. You have Keenan Allen as a wide receiver too. D-Hop, Kittle. Your team's stacked everywhere.
So you got to favor me this week, right? Even though Ben's leading his division.
Yeah, even with having Dalton and Keenan Allen out,
I think Ben's only path to victory is I think Josh Allen has been very productive at times, and he's shown upside that we always knew as a rushing quarterback he had tremendous upside, but as a passer he's been showing upside that we didn't know he was capable of. Hadn't really shown a lot of up to this point.
Yep.
So if he gets in a 500 yard,
500 points.
Oh baby.
500 yard, 5 touchdown type shootout with Mahomes, which is not crazy to think happens.
That's
right?
certainly possible.
And then Dalton could take some adjusting period and throw a couple picks, have a fumble.
Or Zeke gets all the touchdowns too. He could put up 8, and Zeke gets all the touchdowns. I
mean, that's a lot of points that you have to make up from other places in your lineup, which you could, but Lindsey, I'm not super high on at New England with no Melvin. I think Lindsey's fine, but I think Melvin Gordon's probably a touch more talented than he is, and he's not a bell horse guy, so they probably still won't get they'll give him more work than you saw before, but it's they kind of like to keep him around 16 carries, 16 touches. Maybe 20 if they really need it.
Yep.
But it's not a 30-touch guy, right? He's capped.
Yeah, and it's not like Denver's offense is explosive either.
Yeah. I think a lot of things got to go wrong for your team, and a lot of things have to go right for Ben's to him even have a chance of winning. I feel you'll win this game by 10 or 15 points, maybe even more.
And one of the interesting things is he has this it's this inverse correlation between he's starting the Chiefs defense against his quarterback.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of dumb. Because if that game shoots out, which needs to happen to have a chance at winning, that means that it's likely that he's getting negative points from his defense. So I might consider, I'm sure he won't listen to this in time, but I might consider plugging in a different defense. Just, it sounds kind of weird, but I think that you don't want to inversely correlate two things like that.
Your win condition. You don't want to bet against your win condition, so to speak.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
that's a
who
great
knows?
point.
That stuff's weird. Maybe they get a touchdown. I just know it could be with a situation where the game shoots out. He gets the win condition he needs from Josh Allen, but then
the Chiefs do what the Bills did to you last week and get a shitty score and lose you the game.
Yeah, and you lose -4, and then that would Honestly, there'd be like some kind of like poetic irony if that happened.
That would be
Like,
funny, honestly.
but yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking. But that's very nitpicky, you know.
All
But
right.
yeah, I have to edge you
Well,
basically.
those were two great previews. Let me go ahead and address it from my perspective now. I picked up Andy Dalton because Drew Brees was on bye, and the Cowboys have a high-powered offense with three very talented receivers. And it's also sort of a dirty hedge in the sense that I have Zeke, and that anything that Zeke doesn't get, Dalton will get. And on that 2-minute drill last week, Dalton looked great, particularly the long bomb on the sideline to, I believe it was Michael Gallup. And that wasn't it, Spencer, at the end there?
Yes.
It was just, yeah, exactly. And it
Two
was,
long bombs.
and I've been watching Dak Prescott for 4 years and been watching him incapable of being able to do that for so long, and to see the Red Rocket come in and just put dimes right in the receiver's breadbasket like they were AJ Green just put a big old smile on my face. I low-key think the Cowboys can scrape 9 wins together even with that atrocious defense and make the playoffs. And yeah, they'll get bounced in the first round, but they'll win the division.
I mean, people don't sleep on Dalton. Like I was
Yeah.
saying, things could go wrong for Dalton, but this is a guy who's very experienced and like comfortable throwing deep balls to AJ Green. We saw it during his time in Cincy. Like this could be a way more vertical Cowboys team than we've seen historically.
That's
That's
very
all I
true.
wanted to say.
There's like a lot of hidden upside, I feel like. Like no one thinks Dalton will be great, but there is a chance with Lamb, Gallup, a great line, Zeke, and fucking Cooper that he is like way above average. It's way more than he had in Cincy. And it's not like he was the reason they were bad in Cincy either.
This is probably the most talented like receiving core he's ever had.
Oh yeah, and line and running back, like
Yeah,
this is way better than anything Dalton's ever had.
yeah. And I don't think like he's a crazy downgrade from Dak. Like I still think like
neither.
Andy Dalton was like a great quarterback at Cincinnati. It's just like that O line is dog shit. It is like
Agreed.
it's crazy like how important the offensive line is. Like it's
Very underrated. It's not something that the casual fan necessarily thinks
Yeah.
about. Also, the Cincinnati Bengals were deeply undisciplined and had a sloppy defense. That was another thing that held him back.
Vontaze Burfict.
Yeah, but
Love that guy.
Vontaze Burfict like trying to kill Antonio Brown and costing him a playoff game.
Dude, that's like one of my favorite hits. He like destroys Antonio Brown, but like the next play, Juju like does like a crack block and like fucking destroys him and knocks him out of the game.
Those are different games. Juju did that block like 2 years later.
Oh, I saw like the video of them like clipped together,
back
so I
to
thought
back.
it was like the next
No,
play.
but like that because the perfect hit was like with 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter and they lost the playoff game. But the Juju hit was revenge for the AB cheap shot, and it was god tier, and it's like one of my favorite plays ever.
Yeah.
So I
that's
agree
awesome.
with you in that sense. And if we just continue to look at this game, Ronald Jones, this is a lot like how I viewed my game last week. I have players that are above average or solid that are in position to do even better. Ronald Jones has Fournette hurt. DeAndre Hopkins has been a very solid target and is facing the laughingstock of the Dallas defense. Tyler Boyd is going to be started versus Indy. You know, and I actually had a little bit of trepidation because I actually am considering starting Lev Bell, but that would mean that I have to move the running backs around, and that would probably mean benching Hunt, which I don't really want to do. But since Boyd is the first option, I'm going to start him versus Indy. And just throughout my team, we see a lot of solid stuff, and I'm starting the Panthers this week. They're facing off against Chicago with their little quarterback issues. And I think I'm favored to win this game, even though I think Ben will probably put up 90 plus.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say that you'll probably win this game out. It's like everything, like all the matchups for this week are going like good for like me and you in the division, but it's like I have to win my game as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like I think Weston. I can't remember if I predicted him to win. Yeah, I think
You
yeah
did.
Weston's
Weston's
gonna
set to
win.
have a big
Lily's gonna
week.
lose. I think Willie's gonna lose, or Lily, sorry. And then I think Weston will win, and then I just need to pull out a win against Jackson, which I think is like very possible. But I think it's like you and Weston are guaranteed wins this week, and I think Lily's guaranteed a loss. Like I just need to close my game out.
Well, it's a very interesting week in terms of the context of the divisions and the future of the teams. And I think that a lot of times through week 5, we have at least one or two teams that are completely out or look as though they're going to they're the hard division favorites that are just going to sweep through. And there's a lot of parity this year. And even in the division of death where no one has a winning record and everyone's on a loss streak, that division's still very close and interesting. So it's going to be a great year. And if you guys want to give any closing thoughts on the divisions or even division predictions, I'd love to hear that.
I think our division's been like the best division for like the last like 3 or 4 years, but the middle division's kind of like a joke now. Like I don't understand what's going on over there. Like Jackson's team's normally like really good, but I still like disagree with him taking Chris Carson in the first round. But I think like I thought Chris Carson was going to have a good year, but he could have got him in like the
I think
second
you
or
have
third.
to give him props, because like I still think it was a reach, but like he's reached value. So I think at some point you've got to be like, well, like that was like a good pick, because even though he's not getting the volume that like he's getting the volume we expected, but like this, I guess if maybe he thought the Seahawks were going to elevate themselves to be hyper efficient.
No, like I thought Chris Carson would perform how he's performing, like because like he's a great running back and they love running the ball to him, like they love giving him the ball. But I think I don't disagree with the pick. Like I thought that was a good pick. I disagree with him taking him in the first round.
You think
like,
it was a reach?
Yeah, he could have got him in the second, maybe third, maybe not third,
No,
depending on. I can't remember where he was at.
He probably
but definitely
could have gotten
second
him in the second.
Yeah.
But
like I wouldn't have taken him as my RB2.
Yeah, I get that. I just think I think at some point, like if he's a top 5 at the end of the year, like I think we got to give Jackson props for that. Like,
oh yeah, for sure,
definitely.
Like, that was a good pick, and you know he saw.
I believed in the picks, but it's like I just thought it was a reach, which I think like everybody agreed.
He was in that really weird spot near the very end of the first round where it's like, well, yeah, I need a running back. And no, there's not really like a first-round tier running back talent here. But if I wait, it's going to be in the third, and then I'm really going to be screwed. So that's how you have people taking people like Chris Carson and Joe Mixon and players like this. So I think that's a great point to end on. And make sure you rate, comment, and subscribe because we're not missing an episode all season.